Welcome to Saturdays with Mark and Tony, featuring Mark Lowry and Tony Campolo. Now, here are Mark and Tony.
You can argue with them on Katrina, you can argue with them on Iraq, but the stock market is booming, unemployment is down. If it goes, I could give you the reasons, it's a long lecture on why we don't want the unemployment rate to go below 4.5, but it's down to as low as it should get. They're advertising.
So we do want 4.5% to be unemployed?
Yes, we do.
What you're saying?
Yes, we do.
Why? Can you give me a Cliff Notes on
Yes, I can. I give you a quick answer.
Okay.
That if there is a shortage of laborers, the cost of employment will go up so high that it will destroy the economy.
Okay.
Do you see the law of supply and demand?
Yes.
There has to be a surplus of people who are employable to keep the economy going.
Got it.
And in America, I got to tell you, if you want a job right now and you don't have one, it's not because jobs aren't available. You may not like the jobs, but you can go down to McDonald's and they have a sign, we're hiring. Right. They may not have health benefits, which they should have. Right. They may not have all the other benefits, which they should have, but you can get a job. So these people are coming into this country, and I got to tell you, if we took the 12 million illegal immigrants out of this country like that, this country would suffer economically. Factories would close. Food wouldn't get picked in the California farms. That's the reality. Secondly, and I'm going to ask Paul to pick up on this, start telling us what the Bible says about treating immigrants. Because the Bible is very specific on this subject.
On immigrants.
Hebrews 13:2, do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by this some have entertained angels without knowing it.
Yeah, who's to say that you're entertaining an angel unawares?
I've been trying to tell you, huh?
Yeah, and go a step further.
I'm an angel.
All the way, you know that passage that I always quote from the 25th chapter of Matthew that I got in trouble for. I was hungry, did you feed me? Naked, did you clothe me? Sick, did you care for me? I was, it says a stranger. The answer in the original language, I was an alien. Did you make room for me?
Is that what it says?
That's what it says, baby.
I was an alien?
I was an alien in the original language. That's what it says. I was an alien. I was a stranger.
I was an illegal immigrant?
I was an illegal immigrant. In the Old Testament, the Jews are told constantly to treat the alien in their midst, the one who's come in from another country, with justice and love. Why? And he says, because remember that you were once aliens in a strange and distant land. And all of us who are talking about aliens, I think those who are in the pulpit need to stand up and say to the congregation, you were once an alien in a strange and distant land.
Do you think it's wrong to hire an illegal alien?
Well, I think we ought to obey the law. I think we need to change the laws so that these people don't have to be illegal aliens. That's what I'm saying.
But they came to us and said, I'm hungry and we better feed them.
You better have.
But don't ask them to pick up after themselves.
Yeah, here's what
I'm asking you, seriously.
Well, I think we have a call to ask people to be responsible citizens of our country. But I've got to say, President Bush has put out a very, very helpful immigration plan. It's not ideal. As a matter of fact, if it was up to George Bush, it would be more open and more liberal. But he's worried about all those people in Congress who are so uptight about immigrants, and he's uptight about the Democrats. And I'm a Democrat. I mean, he's up against the Democrats who are saying you're going to take jobs away from Americans, and he's saying no, I'm not, by leaving these people in. He's trying to figure out a way to make 12 million immigrants who are here illegally legal. And he's running into all kinds of opposition. I know he would be even more open to immigration if he was given the chance. I mean, this guy was governor of Texas. He has a heart for immigrants. He saw who came across the border. He knew that they were looking for a better life in America. And I got to give a pat on the back to George Bush on this one. And may I say, his greatest supporters are, interestingly enough, Ted Kennedy.
Ted Kennedy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Ted Kennedy. I mean, it's all these guys on the left that are patting the president on the back saying he's right on this one.
Anybody disagree with this? They wouldn't. Got nobody out there want to fight.
Well, what about the argument that says that we're just taking advantage of these people and we're making them our slave labor?
Yeah, for like...
Well, I think that we need to make them legal immigrants, and if they're legal immigrants, then when they are being pushed around and pushed in sweatshops, they can then go to the cops. In New York City, You have lots of illegal immigrants working in sweatshops. It's almost become slave labor, as you well know. And these people don't know what to do. They can't get out. And the bosses are saying, if you give us any trouble, we're going to turn you over to the police. And they're illegal immigrants. They don't want to be shipped back. They don't want to be put in jail. We've got to make the illegal immigrants, which is what Bush wants to do, into legal citizens. Then, in fact, when they're getting pushed around and being abused, they can go to the authorities and say, we demand justice. That's the answer.
How do those who oppose this, how do they suggest that we're going to go after 12 million people and collect them up and take them back?
I really...
How does...
Yeah, isn't it Newt Gingrich is saying...
big bus.
Well,
Newt Gingrich is saying we need to do this.
What is that going to cost, and how would you do that?
Yeah, how would you do that? And what would happen?
12 million plane tickets.
And think of the huge employment gap it would create in this country of work that needs to be done that isn't being done. We got to do things. We've got to change things. And
We'd have to mow our own grass.
And I think the president... You always bring up these deep theological insights, don't you admit?
Do y'all want to mow your own grass?
Yeah. Man alive.
Next question.
Sharon from Brentwood, Tennessee. My question is, do our prayers change the mind of God?
Ooh. Well, we do know his... You know, we've often heard, and I believe it's in Hebrews, Paul says, God never changes, right?
Yes, you gave me that verse, didn't you?
What was it, Hebrews? What did you say it was? God is the same today, yesterday,
and forever.
It
said Jesus is the same. Jesus Christ is the same.
But that's
yesterday,
talking about his character, is it not?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I think.
But you know that Abraham.
Yeah.
I don't know how
God was going to destroy.
Yeah, and Abraham went and bargained God down to...
And Moses did as well.
Was it Moses?
Yeah, because God said to Abraham, okay, if you can find 10 just people there, I'll spare the city. And poor Abraham couldn't find 10. I mean, that was pretty bad.
Well, Lot himself was a little dicey.
So
Lot was the righteous one, and he was going to give his daughters up.
You know,
right?
Abraham and his whole family...
Dysfunction.
Huge dysfunctional family. There's no question about it. You know, every once in a while, somebody says to me, what we've got to do is we've got to get back and reestablish the biblical family in today's world. You've heard that line. We want a biblically based family.
How many different families?
One of my colleagues says there's at least 12 different types of biblically prescribed families. For instance, in the Hebrew Bible, it is prescribed, in the Old Testament it's prescribed, that if I got married, and here's my wife, and I die before there's a male child born to us, she is obligated to marry my brother. And you say, well, what if your brother's already married? No problem. There's nothing against polygamy here. So he's to take on a second.
He's obligated to marry her.
He's obligated to marry her. He has to marry her. Wow. And the first child born to this woman, this widow who's now married the brother, will bear the name of the deceased man, lest his name be cut off from the land of the living. Okay. So there's called levirate marriage. It was permissible to have concubines. I mean, there's all kinds of marriage forms in the Bible. It's only when you come to the New Testament that you get the implication that, that marriage is confined to one person. And even then, only by implication. It never really states. It says if you're going to be a bishop, a pastor of church,
one wife.
Only one wife, because no church can stand having two pastors' wives, I
guess. Saturdays with Mark and Tony is a presentation of marklowry.com.